You're listening to the Patriot Nation Podcast.
All right, welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation Podcast. As always, we are proud to be with CLNS Media. Make sure you go on and download and subscribe to all of the great shows over at Patriots Press Pass to get great Patriots content all week. As for us, as the Pats Nation Network, and it's your boy Pat Lane here, riding solo again today. Matt is out, still having some concussion symptoms, so he's back in the blue tent. But nevertheless, I'm here, and so we'll be talking about this game. And look, a win is 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 a win. It was ugly. It was ugly, and we'll get into it. But it was ugly. But they won. They're 10-2, and that's really ultimately that's the only thing that we can ask for. But this is where the Patriots are at right now. 10-2, best record in the NFL, first place in the AFC. Colts lost to the Chiefs today, which puts them at 8-3, which gives them a good cushion over the Colts. And of course, the Broncos didn't play this weekend; they're on bye. So we'll see what happens. But the Patriots are for real. Like, this is 10-2, and I know that the Bengals are terrible. I get that. But what I was impressed about from the Patriots today was that you started the game basically as bad as you could possibly start the game. May looked off on his first drive, and you said, all right, okay, not the end of the world, right? It's not good, but it's not the end of the world. We can, we'll figure it out. And then Cincy drives down and gets a field goal. Then you go 3-and-out. Then Cincy has a 10-play drive that they end up punting, and then Drake throws a pick six. After he threw behind Stephon Diggs, made a really nice catch. And then he throws behind Diggs, and then he throws behind Hunter Henry. I have no idea what he was trying to do on that throw. Made absolutely no sense. Even if he thought Henry was going down the seam still, I guess, that's a hospital ball. He was going to get Hunter Henry killed from that safety coming over the top. So I'm not really sure what he was looking at. Terrible throw, and leads to a pick six. But what do the Patriots do? They get the ball. They go on a 9-play, 70-yard touchdown drive where they run it with Henderson. They run it with Henderson for a first down. Drake throws an incomplete. Henderson, 7-yard catch. Drake with a scramble on 3rd and 3 for a first down. Drake hits Ramondre for 5 yards. Ramondre runs for 3 yards. Drake hits Hunter Henry for a first down, and then he hits Hunter Henry for the open touchdown. And that's the stuff to me where, you kind of stop and say, okay, we're doing all right here. And of course, Morgan Moses goes down during that drive, and you're thinking, oh boy, this is, and on that touchdown play, I thought it was on that touchdown play. Marcus Bryant was in. Marcus Bryant got beat, but he did just enough to hold his guy off to allow me to step up and rip it down the field to an open Hunter Henry for a touchdown. Blown coverage, obviously. And then on the very next drive, the Bengals throw that horrendous interception. Flacco just lays out in the flat. Really nice read by Marcus Jones. He takes it to the house. And, Patriots are 14-10. And they don't give up the lead the rest of the game. And the way the game started, it would have been really easy for the Patriots to kind of pack it in and say, hey, look, it's not our day. Drake's off. Tonga got hurt for a little while. Morgan Moses isn't feeling good, obviously. Drake, Will Campbell goes down with an injury, which we'll talk about. Jared Wilson goes down with an injury, which we'll talk about. And it's just not our day. It's just not. We every now and again you lose games like this and it's nope. Patriots fought back. They battled back, And, and they won this game. And I know the Bengals are bad. I know the Bengals defense is statistically the worst defense maybe in the history of the NFL. But sometimes ugly games like this happen, and you have to win those ugly games. Look, these things happen. This happens to good teams. You lose games to good teams like that, right? With the 03, 04 Patriots team losing in Miami on Monday Night Football. That Miami team was god-awful, and you lose in Miami on Monday Night Football. 2018, they lose down in Miami in the Miami Miracle. 2018, they lose in Tennessee, and Tennessee stunk that year too. So it's one of those things where, you lose games sometimes. It just is what it is. But the Patriots fought back and they battled back and they went from that. By the way, Nikhil is saying that Bengals fans don't know how to deal with adversity. Bengals fans, all they know is adversity. Bengals fans they've had no success. They went to one Super Bowl with Joe Burrow. Outside of that, they've been garbage their whole lives. Like, the Patriots fans have it 1,000 times better than Bengals fans. And so I wouldn't call the Bengals fans spoiled necessarily. But that's just me. But that's what I would say. So I don't know. We'll see. The injuries to now. Listen, the injuries to Jared Wilson and Will Campbell. I saw a few reports saying they were just sprains. I saw some people say that it was an MCL, not an ACL for Will Campbell, and so on and so forth, and everything else like that. That's certainly possible. They both left on the cart today. Okay. Will Campbell with a towel over his head because he was crying. That doesn't look like a sprain to me. Doesn't look like a full week injury to me. Now, I could be wrong about that. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe they do have both have sprains, and I hope that that's the case, right? I hope that's the case, right? As Nikhil says, prayers up for both of them, obviously, right? But I hope that that's the case. But just the way it looked, the way they left the field, it didn't look good. And so I'm going to wait to hold judgment until we get the x-rays / MRIs back. But, if there's sprains and they're able to come back this year, that's great. That's great news. If it's Ben Brown and Vidarian Lowe, I thought they both played pretty well when they were in there. And I thought Marcus Bryant played fine when he was in there for Morgan Moses at right tackle. But, part of the strength of this team has been the fact that they've been playing together. And maybe Will Campbell and Jared Wilson haven't been the best guard tackle combination in the league, but they've had some camaraderie. They've had some chemistry together. And you're losing that, right? You're losing that if you have a different player in there, right? And so if it's Vidarian Lowe and, if it's Vidarian Lowe and and Ben Brown, you're losing some of that. And Nikhil, you're insane. I don't want Josh Dobbs in any scenario. That you're completely insane. That's an insane take. I'm not even going to read that. That's an insane take. So Drake struggled to be in the game. My goodness, did he struggle to be in the game. That first interception was horrendous. He had a few really bad throws. But what makes him special is the other stuff. The throw to Pop Douglas, that throw is outrageous. That throw is an absolutely outrageous throw. You don't see guys in the NFL make that throw. You just don't. That's a 40-yard anticipation throw right where it needs to be before Pop gets there in the exact spot that Pop needs to be around 3 defenders. It was a perfect throw. It was a great read. It was a great read by Drake. It was a great job of tracking the ball by Pop Douglas, even with a guy kind of in his face. But it's a perfect throw, and that's the type of stuff that he's been doing all year. He had the other nice throw to Austin Hooper over the linebacker and in between the three defenders around him too, where he threw a back shoulder to protect Hooper from the guy coming at him. Those are the types of things that Drake has been showing us this year. It looked bad at the start of the game, and I was concerned that he was going to have one of those off days, one of those bad days. Quarterbacks have them. Right. He had a really bad first quarter. But outside of that, he looked pretty damn good, right? You had some of the plays was like, the throw in the flat where it was like, it looked like he tried to throw a no-look pass to, I guess, Travion Henderson in the flat, and it just like landed in the middle of nowhere. It was just, I don't know what he was trying to do there, but that's the type of stuff that he was doing early in the game, and then he settled down, and he was fine. And I think I might be wrong. I think that part of it is that they were reading their press clippings just a little bit. They were reading their press clippings a little bit. The Patriots are great. The Bengals are terrible. Drake May's going to go in and throw for 400 yards, and the Bengals defense is Swiss cheese, and on and on and on and on. And instead of that, you come out and you get punched in the mouth. And the Bengals have some pride and they fight, and good for them for fighting. And the Patriots, eventually fight back and win that game. And I think that, to me, that shows me a lot. And I think that they learned from that they made that mistake, and then they were able to come back and win, which is helpful. It's nice to learn from a win instead of learning from a loss. We've talked about that a lot this year. One spot that they have to improve on is the red zone, both offensively and defensively. The Bengals were 1 for 1 in the red zone. The Patriots are 0 for 2 in the red zone. You just can't. You cannot have eight goal-to-go situations back-to-back and not score a single point and burn 2 of your timeouts early in the third quarter. You just can't do that. I mean, that's embarrassing. Embarrassing offense. And listen, I understand that Dax Hill, the first DPI, prevented the touchdown. Yep, true. The second defensive, which is called DPI, but it was defensive holding, but it doesn't matter. The second penalty also prevented a touchdown. I get that. But like Mac Hollins, and this is the second time that Mac Hollins done this, at least the second time that Mac Hollins done this, where he hits the guy. There's no reason to hit the guy. There's no reason. Hunter Henry's wide open in the end zone. It doesn't matter whether you hit him or not. Just avoid him. Just make it look like you're going to hit him and then don't. It's inexcusable in that scenario, in that situation, to do that. Inexcusable. Hunter Henry's by himself in the end zone. Even if you don't do that, Hunter Henry's still wide open. And so, you cost the team a touchdown, which backs them up. They get it back down to the 1 yard line. And then you run it on third down and get nothing. And then you run it on fourth down. And I thought that play, first of all, don't ever run the ball out of shotgun on the goal line. Ever. You don't ever do that. That's stupid. It's dumb. It's stupid. It doesn't work. Do not run out of the shotgun, certainly from the 1 yard. You're at the 9 or something. That's a different story. You're at the 1 yard line. You're just trying to push it into the end zone. You want the running back with a head of steam when he's getting the ball and just plowing forward. That's what you want. So anyways, I hated that play call. And it looked like an RPO. Just based on the way it looked like he should have pulled that. And then Hunter Henry was open in the flat. Again, I haven't seen the all-22. I'm sure some guys will look at it and let us know what's the situation there. But if that was an RPO, it looked like you probably should have pulled it and hit Hunter Henry there. And then at the very least, you're making the guy choose. All right, choose to stop me running the football or choose to stop Hunter Henry. Can't do both. And so, but whatever. That's what I would have done, but it is what it is. They also got stuffed in the red zone again and chose to kick the field goal, which was the right decision. It was the right decision to take the points. And I know it was 4th and 1 at the 1 yard line. I get that. But you had already gotten stuffed at the 1 yard line. What's the point of going out there and beating your head against it and do it again? It's just, there's no point in that, right? I think Garrett Bradbury is a fine center. I think he's fine. I think he's played admirably. He's played better than I thought he's played. That's not what he does. It's just not who he is. And there's no slight to him. That's just not the kind of guy he is. He's not that goal line, mauler, push guy. It's just not who he is, right? And so I think Jared Wilson can develop into that guy at center. And then you can get 2 big guards that can do that. Onwenu should be that guy, and sometimes he is, and sometimes he isn't. So, I don't know. But the red zone offense has got to get better, and the red zone defense has been god awful. And again, this is a Bengals team that can't stop the run, and and certainly isn't good in the red zone. And you couldn't really run on them. They ran a little bit, but you couldn't really run on them. And you certainly couldn't run in the red zone against them. And that's concerning. That's something that you're going to have to fix because you got to score points. You got to score points. So, but anyways, listen, you win the game. And ultimately, if you win the game, that's all we're looking for, right? There are other factors at play here, right? There are other things that we're concerned about. But you win the game. We move on. You're 10-2. That's great. We got the Giants next week. You should win that Giants game on Monday Night Football. You should. If you win that Giants game on Monday Night Football, here's what's interesting about the Giants. Here's what's really interesting about the Giants. They lost today, right, to the Lions. I think James gives them something that Jackson Dart doesn't give them. I think he does. He's electric. He's fun. He's a wild man back there. You never know what he's going to do. And you could probably say the same thing about Jackson Dart, maybe, but I love Jameis. I wouldn't love him as my quarterback, but I love what he brings to the table. Intangibles wise, the guys love him. I just think that, I don't know, if I were the Giants, I'd think about maybe starting him another game and just seeing how it goes. That one's not on him. I mean, it's not on him. You can't give up 219. Jahmyr Gibbs had 219 yards rushing on 15 carries. He had 15 carries for 219 yards rushing. That's hard to do, man. That's really hard to do. The Giants' defense was atrocious. And so, obviously, you're hoping that Trayvon Henderson can hit a few home runs against them as well. We'll see if he can, but that's obviously what you're hoping for. But we'll see. Additionally, the rush defense, and I'm going to talk about the defense when we come back, but the rush defense, not good. Not good. Allows over 5 yards carry to Chase Brown. Just got gashed all over the place. Absolutely no edge discipline whatsoever. Nobody on the edge, which is surprising. It's not who the Patriots have been this year. And maybe they were more worried about the pass than they were the run, I guess. But my goodness, that you just can't, just absolutely no edge discipline whatsoever. And Caleb on Chase, for the love of God, I haven't been impressed with him. I know some people think that he's played really well this year. I don't believe that he has. He's fine. He's a fine edge rusher, but he's not any higher than fine, in my opinion. So, I'm not sold on Chasen. Of course, he has that huge offsides where you're just like, what are you doing? They're not snapping the ball. There's 1 second left on the play clock. They're not snapping the ball, and you go offsides. And it's just inexcusable stuff, man. And he rushes the passer okay, but he's not great. He's not great. So, anyways, that's something I got to get off my chest. People talk about Chasen like he's, not that he's great, but that he's their best edge rusher and that he's, had a really good year and he's a revelation and so on. No. Nope. Not for me, at least. That's just my personal opinion, but, who knows? What do I know? But that's, when I watch him out there, I get annoyed watching him, to be honest with you. So we're going to take a quick ad break. C-Square is asking about Will Campbell. We just haven't heard yet. And I know, again, there's some things floating around about him, right? It's a sprain, and maybe he's only out a few weeks. That's certainly possible, and I hope that that's true. I'm not doing that. I'm not going with the unnamed sources that already know these things when they clearly haven't gotten an MRI or an X-ray yet. So, I'm not doing that. It's possible that that's true. It's possible that that's what they're hoping. You don't know what it looks like until you get an MRI. You just don't. And again, when he and Jared Wilson leave on a cart, and Campbell's got his head covered by a towel because he's been crying. To me, that's not. Oh well, it's just a sprain. I find it hard to believe that he's reacting that way. It's just a sprain, but nevertheless. Anyway, C-Squared, thank you, man. Appreciate you for tuning in. Now let's get into our first ad break. This ad break is Prize Picks. It's the Hard Hitting Football action is back. And even better with Prize Picks, the weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. This week, I had it this week, and stupid Lamar Jackson cannot throw the football. He just can't throw the football, unfortunately. And so that's what did me in, unfortunately. I had Drake May, I had Kenneth Walker, and Lamar Jackson can't throw the ball. So what are you going to do? Prize Picks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. You can pick more on Drake May's passing yards, rushing yards, and touchdowns. And you can pick them in the same lineup only on Prize Picks. You can also follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app and copy the lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. What you're going to do is download the Prize Picks app. You're going to put in the promo code CLNS, and you're going to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Prize Picks CLNS. I'm sorry, that's code CLNS on Prize Picks for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. What's up, GD? Thanks for stopping in. Listen, yes, Flacco played through a broken finger, or at least a dislocated finger. That's true. Burrow didn't sit with a sore toe. So just to be clear about that. Just to be clear about that, okay? Joe Burrow wanted to play. Right? And the Bengals didn't let him play because he's their franchise quarterback. And yes, do you want to make the playoffs this year? Absolutely. Your team is a disaster. Okay? It's a disaster. And, it doesn't make sense to me to put him out there, especially when you're playing on Thursday. If they were playing on Sunday next week, then fine. But he's gonna come back and play on Sunday and then play. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. So I like the fact they stuck with Burrow. I like the fact they stuck with Flacco, and then you can go to Burrow on Thursday. That's what I think they should do. We'll see what happens, but that's what I think they should do. So, anyways, let's get into the defense just a little bit. So, and TD's saying it's catastrophic injury. So I guess we should talk about this because I didn't really get into it. I kind of glossed over the injuries. If the Campbell and Wilson injuries are season-ending or are long-term injuries, if that's the case, that is very concerning for the Patriots. I thought Vidarian Lowe played fine. I thought Ben Brown played fine. But they're just not that good. Vidarian Lowe, I think, is fine. I think he's a replacement level player. I don't think he's below replacement level. I think he's a replacement level player, meaning that he's an average backup in the NFL, which is fine. But I think Will Campbell has been much better than that. Right? He hasn't been an all-pro or anything like that, but he's been an above average tackle so far this year. Right? Whereas you're going to a guy that, again, is a backup level player, right? That's not good. That's a big drop off, right? That's a big drop off. That's not what you want. Now, if he's your backup left tackle, well, whatever. He's your backup left tackle. That's fine. It's interesting that Marcus Bryant isn't the backup left tackle. Obviously, they see something in Vidarian Lowe that they like better. What's also interesting is that Morgan Moses went out. Morgan Moses went out before Will Campbell did. And when Morgan Moses went out, it wasn't Vidarian Lowe that went over to the right side. It was Marcus Bryant. So that was interesting to me. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means that because I do think you're going to have to move on from Morgan Moses come next year. And then, maybe they will, maybe they won't. I'm not sure. But if you decide to move on from Morgan Moses this year or next year, do they look at it and think that Marcus Bryant can be their long-term answer at right tackle? I don't know the answer to that question. But it was interesting that he was the guy that went in at right tackle. That was fascinating to me, especially as a guy who played left tackle his entire college career, right? He's a guy that went to Missouri. Remember now, Armand Membu was at Missouri, and Armand Membu, instead of going to the left side, stayed on the right side because Bryant was playing on the left side. So that, that's kind of the idea. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. But I thought that was interesting. Just to see him over at right tackle. And again, if they're working exclusively at left tackle, I thought maybe he'd be their swing tackle, their third tackle, but it appears that they have Lowe on the left side, and as the backup, and then they have Bryant on the right side as the backup. So we'll see. We'll see. I think that Lowe will be fine. I don't think he's going to be good. I think, and is it Madaga, looks like? I think that they're going to have to give him help. I think they're going to have to give him chips, and they're going to have to help out there. But, I think that's not a terrible thing. And I think he'll be okay at left tackle. Not great, but okay. And I think you can survive with that. So, that's not, it's not ideal. And N'Keal's not as bad as you think. He's not as bad as you're saying. He's just not. I'm sorry. He's not as bad as you're saying. So, not great. I don't want him starting for me. I mean, that might be the case that he's starting. I don't necessarily love that. But he's a fine backup. He's a fine backup. He's better than some of the backups that are out there. So, some of the backups that are out there are really bad. But yeah. At the end of the game, Tonga, by the way, had a chest injury, and he, I believe, came back. I'm pretty sure. So we'll see. But I don't know. So we'll see. TD might be right. Listen, it could be a season-ending thing for the Patriots. If it's Ben Brown and it's Vidarian Lowe at left guard and left tackle, respectfully, you might look at it and say, nah, they can't do it. They can't do it. And that's certainly possible that they can't do it. Okay? But, I think that they'll be fine. And Vidarian Lowe wasn't that bad last year. He actually has gotten better every year that he's been here. And so he was really, really bad 2 years ago. He was bad last year, but not that bad last year. And again, I think this is a great point here too. He was on an island, got no help. They had no offensive scheme. They had no offensive line coach, for God's sakes. Like, they had nothing last year. Nothing. So, but, we'll see what happens. I think I'm not going to panic just yet. I'm certainly worried about it. Because when you play in the playoffs, you need to have linemen that can play, right? And if you don't have that, you're in trouble, right? I also think if Campbell and Wilson are out, you better get the 1 seed. You absolutely better get the 1 seed, right? Because if you're going to Denver running a silent count against that offense, you're going to get absolutely plastered. So that becomes even more important to play home games so that your offensive line doesn't have to worry about that. So we'll see. Anyways, to the defense, Carlton Davis is a guy that has gotten a ton of hate from Patriots fans. People have hated him all year. People have said he stinks. People say he's no good. He gets DPI calls all the time. And he stepped up in a big way. At the end of the game. Had a few big pass breakups at the end of the game. I know people were pissed that they didn't get calls or whatever. Listen, you can be physical with guys. You just can't drag them down. And I don't think that anyone did that on any of those plays. I'm sorry, Marcus Jones, 5'8", 180 pounds, Marcus Jones is not pulling down 6'5", 260 Mike Gesicki. It's not happening. He had his hand on his back. He didn't pull him. He just dove in front of him and knocked the ball away. So, the original call on Davis was a good call. It was the right call. Never turned back. He's got his body on him. That was the right call. But it was a good no call at the end of the game. So I think that for me at least, Carlton Davis steps up big time. Of course, Marcus Jones steps up as well at the end of the game. We talked about Marcus a little bit with that pick six was awesome. I will say that the kick return unit, might be shocking to you. I hope everyone's sitting down right now. I hope you're sitting down. Having fast guys on the kick return unit helps. Oh, I know that's earth-shattering. I know that's earth-shattering. But when you get rid of slow Efton Chisholm returning kicks for you, and you put back Kyle Williams, all of a sudden, your kick return unit looks pretty good. So it's, that to me is helpful. That's helpful. Now, is Kyle Williams going to be the best kick return guy? No, of course not. But Efton Chisholm was lucky to get past the 25, right? At least you got some juice there with Kyle Williams. He, bounced off a few guys on one of his returns. He's fast, right? At least he can run by some people. That doesn't help. Yes. Hold on. Oh boy. Is that better? Can you hear me now? I have no idea what happened. All of a sudden my computer started freaking out. Am I good? Am I back on the air? This is what happens. Live TV, baby. All right, good. Back on the air. Thank you. I don't know what the heck that was all about. Anyways, so that's what happens. That's what happens when you're live. But nevertheless, I was happy to see that from the kick return team. I've been wanting Chisholm off of there. They finally got him off, and it makes a difference. And so I was happy with that. Also, Andy Borghaus again coming through in the clutch. This has been a consistent trend for him. I know he missed a kick, last week, but you're talking about a guy this week goes 4 for 4 on field goals. Again, hits another 52-yarder, and that 52-yarder puts the game from 3-6, and it makes it more difficult for Cincinnati at the end of the game. And I think that that was big. He also had a kick that landed at like the 3 and bounced into the end zone, which is huge because it pins them at the 20 instead of at the 35 or the 40. That's a big deal. So that was a really nice kick by him. He did a nice job today. I was happy to see that. And Borghaus, frankly, has been very consistent and reliable. Now, he hasn't played in the cold weather. He hasn't played in the elements. He hasn't done any of those things, right? January in New England is cold and usually snowing. And how is he going to perform in those moments? We don't know. We don't know, right? That's just we have no experience with that. We don't know how Drake May is going to perform in those moments. We don't know. So, but for right now, I think that I'm happy with what we're getting from Borghaus. I like the fact that I feel like he's playing well, and he's again been as reliable as you can hope for from a rookie kicker. And Ohio was cold, but it wasn't 4 degrees there or whatever and snowing. So that's what I mean by cold. So Anyways, so there's that. I honestly don't know if there's a ton else that I really wanted to talk about with you today. I think the big thing for me is that first of all, right? Number one, you want to get healthy, right? Let's see what these injuries look like. I don't know what's going to happen, but let's see what these injuries look like. Okay. Number two, the mistakes. They got to fix the mistakes. You got to fix the mistakes. Drake can't start like that. The defense can't start like that. You got to be better in the red zone in both offense and defense, right? Like you have to be. If you're going to really compete in the playoffs, you're going to have to do that. Okay. Now Walkman says too that like we've had the easiest schedule in NFL history. You're not wrong. Like we've had an incredibly easy schedule. That's true. That's definitely true, right? I know that Nikhil's saying that Burrow, may not have the chemistry, but Joe Burrow has been playing with these guys for years. Like he would have had enough chemistry with them. That I'm not worried about. I think he wouldn't have been able to move quite as well? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. That could have certainly been an issue for him. But as far as, the chemistry and stuff, I wouldn't have been concerned with that. But anyways, I think for me, right now, where we're at right now, you're 10-2. We're the number one seed in the AFC right now. We'll see if we can keep that. But if you win this game against the Giants, just so we can lay the timeline out, you win this game against the Giants, you go into your bye, we get 11-2 on a 10-game win streak. Right? Now, you haven't clinched the playoffs just yet because right now there are 10 teams with 5 or fewer wins in the AFC. It's a lot of 10-win teams. Although I will say, in the NFC, in the NFC, the Lions, who are 7-4 out of the playoffs right now, which is completely insane. But nevertheless, but what the Patriots can do next weekend is get very close to clinching a playoff spot. Now, again, like I said, there are 10 teams that have 5 wins or less. But if a few of those teams lose, the Patriots could conceivably clinch next weekend with a win. If they don't clinch next weekend, they could actually clinch the playoffs on their bye, which would be interesting. So, and if they don't clinch then they could certainly clinch again against the Bills. If they win on Monday Night Football against the Giants, they will clinch the AFC East with a win against the Bills. It's pretty unbelievable to think about. Okay, it's pretty unbelievable to think about. So anyways, that's where we're at right now. So, listen, regardless of what happens, it doesn't matter what happens the rest of the way through. Patriots could lose in the first round of the playoffs. I don't care. I wanted them to win the Super Bowl. I'd love it if they won the Super Bowl, right? I projected them to win 8 games. They've won 10 now, right? So I'm looking at this as gravy. Learn from your mistakes. Get better. Show me that you're a well-coached football team, okay? Show me that you're a well-coached football team and that you learn from your mistakes and that you change, what you're doing and, and go out there and win against the Giants. So, anyways, so we'll see. But anyways, we're going to be back Wednesday night. We'll be back Wednesday night. Obviously, Thursday is Thanksgiving this week, so we are not going to be around Thursday night, but we will be around Wednesday night. Previewing the Giants game on Monday Night Football, and then we'll be live. We will not be live on Sunday, but we will be live. Matt will be live Monday night after the game. I'll be at the game, so I won't be live after the game, but Matt will be live for a quick recap show after the game. But we'll be back with you on Wednesday night. Enjoy your week this week, and we'll talk to you Wednesday night. Thanks for tuning in, as always. Thanks for the chat, as always, for being there and being live. We appreciate you guys, and be good to each other, and go Pats.